Hey guys, welcome to this week's Q&A. I am founder and the host, Belinda Risley, and welcome. Hope everyone has had a fantastic weekend. Lucky those who ever got to compete. I hope you had a great time. And a big shout out to all of the Victorian and New South Wales people. Hopefully you got to reconnect today with some families and friends. Thanks guys for joining me. Please, if you're listening live, let me know in the comments that you're here, where you're listening from. And certainly if you've got any questions, put them into the comments box, and anytime you can put your questions in. All right, so we've got a very dull subject tonight, but it is one of the most important subjects, and that being your finances. In order to go racing, it's really important that you have a very, very clear understanding of exactly what your finances are. So that what are your expenses? What is the actual real cost of going racing? Another reason why it's really, really important is that when you break down all of those expenses, when you are looking for sponsorship, it's easier to break it down and to ask specifically for that request from the sponsor. So for example, once you break down that you need tires, and you break down that you need, maybe you're a drifter and you need a set or 2 sets, 4 sets every race meeting, and that's 4 times your 4 race meetings, you're after 16 sets, then it's easy to go look for a sponsor, for a tire sponsor, and say exactly that you're after 16 sets of tires at this financial amount. Again, lots of people come saying, oh, I need to have $250,000 to go racing. I'll be like, fantastic. So break that down for me. What does that all mean? What does my $250,000 get me? And so once you've broken it all down, again, it's a lot easier to know what sponsors to actually go after. And their point is that you don't necessarily have to say it's $5,000, because once you break it down, it might actually only be $3,000 that you need from that specific sponsor, and or that it's easier to plan, obviously for traveling cost and things like that as well. As I mentioned last week, we'll be doing these every week, and we do have our workbook that you can purchase. This is the email address, the website address, motivatetraining/product workbook for $49. And over the next couple of weeks, we're actually working through that workbook. We know that finances is one of the big things, because if you ain't got any money and you don't know where it's going, unfortunately, there's not a rainbow. There's no lucky gold pot at the end of the rainbow, and so it's important that you do know what you need to go racing, and definitely to ensure that you can actually fulfill the whole race calendar. There's nothing worse than committing or overcommitting yourself to a series and thinking, okay, well, we've got enough money now to go from round 1 to 3. Hopefully we won't be winning, because we won't be able to do rounds 5 to 7. So it's really important at the beginning that you set up those finances straight away. It is pretty much a daunting task to get started, especially if you've never done it before. So again, like your house expenses, you need to sit down and write down exactly all of the cost involved for you going racing. This does also include things like loss of wages, your mechanics' wages, your food, all the incidentals, repair costs, accommodation, flights, hire cars, fuel for the hire car, fuel for your travel to and from the destinations. And so obviously if you're racing a national series, your costs are going to vary per round depending on where you're located. So you may have to do an actual expense sheet for each round. And again, this includes things that you'd really love to have within your race team as well. So if you don't currently have a personal trainer, maybe you need to factor that in, because that's a want that you'd like to have. Maybe you would like to work with a sports psychologist, but you haven't had the funds to do it. So again, with this expense sheet that you're going to go through, you want to include all of those things that's on your wish list as well. Guys, if you'd like a copy of the expense sheet, just write expense sheet into the comments, and I'll messenger that out to you tonight, or whenever you're listening to this episode. Again, thanks guys for who's on and listening. If you've got any questions, please put them into the comments. Let me know where you're from and if you have any questions. So that is around about your expenses. So write them all down, all the incidentals, do it per round and then do it per annum. You might want to have a cup of tea or some water with you to actually find out those real facts and figures. As I said, it can be quite a daunting exercise if you haven't done it before. But there are some fantastic resources to help you ongoingly. Say if you've never done it before in 2021, if you do want to start this process, here are some apps that I use and recommend. So the first one is called Pocketbook. And Pocketbook is really about an expense recorder. So it links up to your bank accounts. Again, as you know, motorsport is a business. It's something we're very passionate about promoting. If you're going to be racing, and seriously, I highly recommend that you guys get your own ABN and register for GST, because from a GST component, when you're dealing with sponsorship, it's a lot easier from a taxation point of view. Of course, if you want to double check any of this information and you're not quite sure, head over to the ATO, ATO/business/GST, and there's a whole section on there around about the benefit of having an ABN and being registered, for GST, and what that can mean for a potential sponsor as well. The other app there is called the Good Budget Planner. So it just depends whatever you'd like to work out. So one is an expense one, and one is an actual budget, making sure that you stay in touch with that budget along the way. What else have we got here? We've had a previous podcast on the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, in episode number 17, and that was with Paul Mann, and we went through budgets. So if you can go back and check that one out, that will give you some more information around that as well. All right, sorry about that. And don't forget that there's our great friends over at Morris Finance. So if you're looking to get into some sponsorship, if you are needing some sort of lease agreement, business, commercial vehicles, commercial equipment, heavy machinery, capital raising, or agriculture business, the guys over at Morris Finance can help you. As you know, they're very keen supporters of motorsports, and they'll definitely assist you in any way. And maybe this is nothing or something that you've had to think about before, but obviously due to COVID, business things have changed, and maybe you might need to look into a leasing agreement for your Porsche Carrera car, or if you're looking to go into a Super 3 series or something like that. So again, if you are looking for finance, even if it's for your own business, make sure you go and check out the guys at Morris Finance, say Motivate Centres over here, and they will sure to look after you. So again, guys, tonight's episode was a little short and sweet about just making sure that you know your finances, so you know if you can raise really for the entire series. It's one thing to know those basic things, tires, helmets, gloves, leasing vehicle repayments, crash things, but you need to sit down and go through it all, break it all down, break it down round by round, have your annual cost. Then once you've broken down all of that, that's next week. We're actually going to go into what benefits we can offer a sponsor. But I think the week after that, we're going to go through who do we start to contact for sponsorship, and that this budget is going to come in handy, as I said earlier. All right, guys, so these are just those resources again. Head over to Pocketbook or Good Budget Planner, Motorsport Coaching Podcast, episode 17. And if you're after some financial advice, head over to Morris Finance. Of course, we do have our career development coaching package. All of these details around budgets, having an ABN, the benefit of GST, and more details is available into that course. So if you're interested in the career development course, where we go through all of sponsorship, social media, branding, marketing, just DM me or pop career development course into the comments, and I'll send you out some more information. All right, guys, as I mentioned, next week we'll be looking around the benefits. I'm going to try and break down as many categories. As I said, as I mentioned last week, we do have that poll that's in the Facebook group around, what category you race. So if you just go there, and whether it's karts, Formula Fords, and then hopefully I'm going to come up with about 5 or 6 different benefits for each of those specific categories for you. In the meantime, have a fantastic week. Of course, if you've got any questions regarding a sponsorship, now is the time, always is the time to be seeking sponsorship. But of course, going into the new year, most of the calendars are out now, with a few due to come out in the next week or so. If not, it's planning. A lot of them are starting around January, February this year, as opposed to later into the year, March or April. Hopefully you've had been able to continue some of your sponsorship to date. If you have any questions regarding continuing on with sponsors, getting new sponsors, how to renew those agreements, please be in contact. I'm happy to help any way I can. Have a fantastic night, guys. We'll see you next Monday, 8 o'clock, talking everything around benefits to sponsors. Good night.